Welcome to Lying and Cheating. Please like this video and subscribe. Lying and Cheating. I find myself in a whirlwind of emotions right now, struggling to process a revelation that's shaking me to my core. My girlfriend, who I've been with for 2.5 years, cheated on me, and I thought I had moved past it. I thought I had forgiven her, but new details have emerged that I never anticipated, and they're driving me into a state of panic. This all went down about 2 months ago while I was out of town for work, handling a project in a different city. My girlfriend attended a party at the shared apartment of some friends, a gathering that seemed harmless enough. I had no idea that this would lead to the biggest betrayal of my life. The day after the party, she called me, her voice trembling with tears. "I made a huge mistake," she sobbed, confessing that she had cheated. I felt my heart drop into my stomach. The shock was overwhelming. When I returned the following day, we sat down for a long talk. She was clearly upset, but she didn't divulge many details about the affair, and I was too stunned to ask for specifics. All I knew was that she had a few drinks and got swept away in the moment, resulting in a night of unfaithfulness. I didn't even think to ask who it was with. I guess I was too afraid of what I might hear. In that moment, I wanted to be understanding, to provide her with the support she needed as she dealt with her own remorse. We discussed the incident for hours, trying to grasp the situation. She expressed regret, assuring me that it was a one-time mistake and that she loved me deeply. The words felt hollow, yet I clung to them, hoping they were genuine. Despite the initial shock and hurt, I decided to forgive her. I thought that if we could work through this together, maybe we could come out stronger on the other side. After all, our relationship had been filled with joy and laughter, with countless memories that brought us closer together. I remembered our adventures, the way we'd explore new places, the intimate moments shared during quiet evenings at home, and the passion that once ignited our love. I wanted to believe that we could reclaim what we had lost. However, as time passed, the haunting details of that night began to surface. It was almost as if the universe wanted to remind me of my girlfriend's betrayal at every turn. Friends would inadvertently mention her party, and the seemingly innocent comments began to spiral into intrusive thoughts. Was she laughing too hard? Did she look at anyone else the way she used to look at me? Every innocent remark became a dagger, digging deeper into my already fragile heart. My mind raced with images that I couldn't shake off. Scenes of her being intimate with someone else, the sounds, the movements, everything I never wanted to visualize. It was tormenting me, gnawing at my ability to trust her again, let alone be intimate with her. Nights became the hardest. Sleep eluded me as I replayed the scenario over and over in my mind, each replay more torturous than the last. The bed felt too big, and I was constantly aware of the empty space beside me, the absence of the warmth I once cherished. To cope, I tried to engage in activities that once brought me joy, hanging out with friends, immersing myself in hobbies, even diving into work, but everything felt different. I noticed a shift in my perception. Laughter seemed muted, and the world felt less vibrant. Friends could tell something was off. They would casually ask if I was okay, but I always brushed it off, putting on a brave face and saying, "Yeah, just a lot on my mind." But inside, I was crumbling. I never thought I'd be in this position, grappling with feelings of insecurity and betrayal after trying so hard to move on. Now, I'm questioning everything: the sincerity of her apology, our connection, and whether I can truly forgive and forget. The relationship feels like it's hanging by a thread, and I don't know how to pick up the pieces. The tension between us has grown palpable. Every glance she casts my way feels loaded. Every word she utters seems to carry a weight of unspoken fears. We've tried to communicate, to discuss our feelings openly, but the words often get lost in translation. I find myself hesitating, unsure of how to express my confusion and pain. I want to scream, to cry, to let it all out, but I worry about her reaction. What if she thinks I'm still not over it? What if she feels I'm dragging this on? I want to protect her feelings, but at the same time, I feel like I'm suffocating in silence. Then, last week, an unexpected twist turned my world upside down. I was scrolling through social media when I stumbled upon a photo that sent my heart racing. A picture of my girlfriend, smiling brightly, arm in arm with a guy I didn't recognize. They were standing in front of a picturesque mountain backdrop, a place I had suggested we visit together. My stomach dropped. How could she be so carefree? But it wasn't just that. The caption read, "Best weekend ever with my favorite person." I felt my anger boil over. I reached out to her, demanding an explanation. She responded with surprise, claiming it was a harmless outing with friends, that I had nothing to worry about. But I could feel the tension in her voice, a slight crack that told me there was more beneath the surface. My instincts kicked in, and I began to dig deeper. I decided to confront her about the affair. With every question I asked, her responses became more evasive. "It's just a friend," she insisted. But something in her demeanor felt off. I began to wonder if this was a fresh betrayal, or if she had been lying to me from the beginning. Was she still hiding things? I had given her a second chance, yet here I was, feeling like I was losing her all over again. The next day, fueled by a mix of hurt and determination, I went to meet a friend for drinks. As we sat at the bar, sharing stories and laughing, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. In the back of my mind, I was still reeling from that photo, and I couldn't help but share my worries with him. To my surprise, he revealed that he had seen my girlfriend with that same guy just a few days before, holding hands and laughing together at a cafe. That revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt dizzy and confused, spiraling into a mix of emotions I couldn't handle. I had already forgiven her once, but now I was faced with an even deeper betrayal. How could I trust her again? How could I allow myself to fall back into that trap? As the hours went by, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I needed to confront her once and for all, to demand the truth. I returned home, adrenaline pumping through my veins, ready to face whatever she had to say. But I wasn't prepared for what I found when I walked through the door. There, sitting on the couch, was not just my girlfriend but also the guy from the picture. Her arm draped over him as they both laughed at something on her phone. The sight shattered me. The betrayal felt like a knife, twisting deeper into my heart. My world crumbled in an instant, and I knew I had to make a decision about my future. In the days following that gut-wrenching encounter, I made a conscious effort to forgive her. It felt like a long road filled with twists and turns, but I genuinely believed that we were making progress. My girlfriend seemed truly remorseful. Her apologies were heartfelt and sincere. With each passing day, I convinced myself that we could rebuild what had been shattered. It took time, but eventually, I reached a point where I thought we were on solid ground again. Her infidelity became a ghost of the past, an unspoken chapter in our story. We shared laughter, cooked meals together, and even revisited some of our favorite date spots. Life began to feel normal again, or at least what I thought normal should be. Yet, there were moments when curiosity crept in like a shadow, lingering just at the edge of my mind. I would occasionally catch myself wondering about the details of her affair, the specifics that I had buried deep in the recesses of my thoughts. But I told myself it didn't matter. I had chosen to forgive her, and that meant moving forward without the weight of the past. But little did I know how wrong I truly was. Yesterday, everything changed. I met up with a mutual friend, Alex, who had been at the party where it all went down. He seemed genuinely surprised that I had been able to forgive her, his brows knitting together in disbelief as we sat over drinks at our favorite bar. I tried to explain my perspective, that I valued her honesty, her willingness to come clean without me having to pry it out of her. "People make mistakes," I said, attempting to downplay the gravity of the situation. But Alex's expression told me he wasn't buying it. He leaned in closer, a hint of concern etched across his face. "Man, you really have no idea what went on that night, do you?" His tone sent a shiver down my spine. I felt my heart race as he continued, "You should know what you're dealing with. You deserve the truth." A knot formed in my stomach, and my palms began to sweat. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to maintain composure. The words hung in the air like a dark cloud, and for a moment, I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I wasn't sure if I wanted to hear what he had to say, but curiosity tugged at me, urging me to dig deeper. "I just think you should hear it from someone who was there," he said, hesitation lacing his voice. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever bombshell was about to drop. I forced myself to ask, What happened? That's when everything shattered. As he recounted the events of that night, the details felt like daggers piercing through my heart. I nearly blacked out as the horrifying truth spilled out of his mouth. They didn't just hook up. It was intense, man. They were all over each other, and it wasn't just a mistake. It felt like they were a couple. Images flooded my mind, vivid snapshots of intimacy I had tried so hard to forget. He told me about the way they danced together, how she clung to him with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. She was practically all over him in front of everyone, he said, his voice growing quieter, almost sympathetic. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. With every word he spoke, the ground beneath me felt like it was crumbling. The laughter, the shared glances, the moments I had believed were innocent, all took on a new, sinister meaning. I felt the blood drain from my face as Alex recounted how they disappeared into one of the bedrooms at the apartment, how the party continued around them while they lost themselves in each other. My head spun as I tried to process the enormity of what I was hearing. The betrayal felt like a physical blow, knocking the breath out of me. My chest tightened, and I struggled to breathe. Anger surged within me, a tidal wave of rage mixed with heartbreak. How could she betray me in such an intimate way, only to pretend it was a fleeting mistake? I felt like a fool for believing her sincerity, for trusting that we could move past this. Dude, I'm so sorry, Alex said, his face etched with concern. I didn't want to be the one to tell you, but you deserve to know the truth. I struggled to hold it together, fighting the tears that threatened to spill over. My heart raced as memories of our happy moments together collided with the harsh reality of her infidelity. Every laugh we had shared felt tainted now, like shards of glass embedded in my chest. Why didn't she just tell me? I whispered, the words escaping my lips like a plea. How could she look me in the eye and say it was a mistake when it was so much more? I felt my hands tremble as the weight of betrayal settled on my shoulders like an anchor dragging me down. My world was unraveling, and I was left standing in the ruins. I spent the rest of the evening in a daze, the bar's sounds fading into the background. I barely touched my drink, the glass growing warm in my hand as I replayed every detail Alex had shared. The laughter, the intimacy, the unguarded moments she had shared with someone else felt like knives twisting in my gut. Each thought was like a fresh wound, and I could feel the anger boiling inside me, a slow-burning fire that threatened to consume me whole. Then, just as I was about to leave, a message popped up on my phone. It was from her, a simple text saying she was thinking of me and missed spending time together. But instead of warmth, it ignited a fire of resentment within me. How could she act as if everything was fine when I was reeling from the truth? The contrast between her light-hearted message and the darkness swirling inside me felt surreal, like a cruel joke. I left the bar, a mix of anger and heartbreak swirling inside me. I knew I couldn't let this slide. It was time to take charge of my life, to reclaim the narrative that had been stolen from me. I needed answers, and this time, I wouldn't settle for vague excuses or half-hearted apologies. I needed to confront her with the truth, to lay it all out on the table. But as I made my way home, a new thought struck me. A plan began to form in my mind. Perhaps this was the moment to turn the tables. Maybe I could show her just how serious I was about protecting myself. The idea felt both exhilarating and terrifying. I needed to be ready. This confrontation would change everything, and I had to be prepared for the fallout. To cut a long story short, the affair wasn't just a fleeting moment of weakness. No, it was a sordid tale of betrayal that cut deeper than I could have ever imagined. As Alex unfolded the truth, I felt my world tilt off its axis. It wasn't just one encounter with a single guy. She had been with at least 3 of them, and from what Alex described, the things they did together were unfathomable to me, things she had always claimed were outside her comfort zone. Each revelation struck me like a blow, leaving me breathless and reeling. I struggled to process it all, my mind racing in a million directions as I fought to understand how she could do this. I mean, I had poured my heart and soul into this relationship, weathered the storms of infidelity, and yet here I was, learning that it had been a much larger affair than I ever imagined. It felt like someone had pulled the rug out from under me, leaving me to tumble into an abyss of confusion and anger. As I stared at Alex, waiting for him to explain more, I couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of betrayal. I never asked for the details, believing that ignorance might be a shield against the pain. But now, knowing the extent of her infidelity, it felt like I had been living in a lie, believing her version of events while she had indulged in a reckless escapade. I had fought so hard to keep this relationship alive, convinced that love could overcome mistakes, only to find out that she had been lying, whether intentionally or not. I remember feeling the blood rush to my head, the heat of anger mixing with the chill of betrayal. How could she do this to me? I muttered, my voice barely above a whisper. Alex's expression was one of sympathy, but it didn't ease the storm brewing inside me. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality, each word he spoke pulling me further into a spiral of despair. But just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, Alex pulled out his phone, scrolling through images until he found what he was looking for. "Look," he said, his voice heavy with reluctance. "This is from that night." He turned the screen toward me, and I felt my heart stop. The image was grainy, a snapshot of her and one of the guys at the party, their faces flushed with alcohol and excitement. But it wasn't just that. They were locked in a passionate embrace, her expression one of sheer ecstasy. I felt bile rise in my throat as my brain tried to reconcile the image of the woman I loved with the one who had so willingly given herself to others. Each moment spent together, each laugh shared, suddenly felt like a cruel joke. I dropped the phone, my hands shaking, and buried my face in my palms. The weight of the truth pressed down on me, suffocating and relentless. "I can't believe this is happening," I gasped, tears threatening to spill over. "I thought we were moving forward. I thought we could be okay." Alex placed a comforting hand on my shoulder, but I shook it off, overwhelmed by a tidal wave of emotions. Anger, sadness, betrayal. I felt the urge to scream, to lash out at the world for what I was going through. But more than anything, I felt a deep, aching sorrow for what I had lost. I had thought I could forgive and forget, but this new information felt like a knife twisting deeper into my heart. As the evening wore on, I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't let this festering wound go untreated. The thought of facing her filled me with dread, but I was determined to seek the truth. I gathered my resolve and decided that tonight would be the night we would have an honest conversation about everything. When I arrived home, the silence was deafening. I could feel the weight of the truth hanging in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. I found her in the living room, casually scrolling through her phone, a warm smile spreading across her face as she looked up to see me. "Hey, you're home early," she chirped, her demeanor blissfully unaware of the turmoil swirling inside me. I felt a surge of anger as her cheerful tone clashed with the chaos in my mind. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady but cold. She raised an eyebrow, sensing the shift in the atmosphere, and nodded, her smile fading. We sat across from each other, and I could see the apprehension in her eyes as I began to lay it all out. "I talked to Alex," I said, my heart pounding in my chest. "He told me everything." Her expression shifted, the color draining from her face. "What do you mean everything?" she asked, a hint of panic creeping into her voice. "About the affair," I continued, my gaze locked onto hers. "It wasn't just a one-time thing, was it? You didn't just sleep with one guy. You slept with at least 3. Her face paled, and for a moment, I thought she might faint. "That's not true," she stammered, but I could see the truth dawning in her eyes. I thought you forgave me. I thought we were moving past this." "Moving past it?" I echoed, my voice rising. "How can I move past it when I find out you had no intention of being faithful? You lied to me by omission. You let me believe we could rebuild our relationship while you were off sleeping with multiple guys." Tears welled in her eyes as she shook her head, but I couldn't find it in me to feel sorry for her. "It wasn't just sex," I spat. "It was intimacy. You did things with him you'd never do with me." The confrontation reached a boiling point, and I watched as she crumbled under the weight of her lies. She tried to explain, but the words fell flat. The excuses felt hollow against the backdrop of betrayal that loomed large between us. But just as I thought I had reached the pinnacle of our confrontation, she did something I never expected. "I'm pregnant," she said, her voice trembling as she delivered the bombshell that left me speechless. "And I'm not sure who the father is." The world around me faded, and for a moment, I was suspended in disbelief. The room spun, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of chaos. My heart raced as I struggled to comprehend her words. "What do you mean you're pregnant?" I shouted, anger mixing with confusion. "This can't be happening." She broke down, the tears flowing freely now. "I didn't know until a few days ago. I was scared, and I didn't know how to tell you." My mind was racing, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. The implications of her words crashed down like a tidal wave, threatening to engulf me. "You have to be kidding me," I said, my voice strained. "This is the worst possible time for this." "I know," she cried, her hands shaking as she pleaded with me. "But please, just listen. I love you, and I want us to be a family. I made a mistake, but I want to fix this." The weight of her confession hung heavy in the air, and I felt torn between the betrayal that had shattered my trust and the sudden realization that our lives were about to change irrevocably. "I don't know if I can do this," I whispered, my heart aching. "How can we move forward from here?" The gravity of the situation settled in, and I realized that this moment would define the rest of our lives. Would I choose to fight for our relationship, to embrace this unexpected turn of events? Or would I walk away, letting the pieces fall where they may? In that moment, as tears streamed down her face and uncertainty loomed in the air, I knew that the path ahead would be anything but easy. But one thing was certain. Everything had changed, and there was no going back. Thanks for watching my story. I recommend checking out one of my past stories. Subscribe to the channel and give it a like.